So let's try and begin with today's core concept of the session we want to look at. We're looking at this idea as if this, then else. Okay, that's the fundamental idea in computing science that helps us build logic into programs by giving computers a choice of what to do. We're getting this idea across to the kids that computers think like us, we think like them. There's this basic idea behind it drives all our decision makings. If a condition is true, do one thing, else do something else. Just like in real life, if it's raining, take a jacket, else you do not need one. So we're introducing this in a way that's approachable for primary learners as well as secondary, using simple and visual logic, which is ultimately the foundation of all decision making within computing itself. So this slide shows we can help pupils build the logic statements through this unplugged activities. Present the pupils with a condition, the if, and ask them to think about what would happen next, the then, and then what would happen otherwise, the else. Now this could go on and on and on. We can take this into quite simple ideas that we've got here. So for example, if it's raining, then take an umbrella, else wear sunglasses. If the traffic light is green, then go, else stop. If you press A on the micro bit, then show a happy face, else show a sad face. So we're showing quite already how we can blend these two together. These activities work really well as whole class games, drama activities, or even small group card slot tasks as well, to reinforce logical structure and help learners predict outcomes without actually needing a computer itself. So before we actually go to power up a device, we want to play with logic in a low stakes and engaging way, something that should already incorporate into a normal classroom structure without encouraging too many new things at one time. Here's a few simple unplugged activities that we found could be effective. We've got card sorting or acting it out. For example, card sorting, pupils are given their if then else condition cards and they simply match them to the outcomes. There's a number of different ways that we can do this that Laura's going to talk to a little bit more from a primary perspective in terms of what can go on in the classroom. Equally, this can be transitioned into your secondary room as well. So we've got to act out as well. If cards aren't your thing in the class, or you've got a much more interactive class, acting out can be a great way to do that. One pupil simply reads the condition, others act out physically, and this keeps things interactive and kinesthetic as well. This phase is really critical for helping that understanding for the pupil regardless of the ability. If we get a solid grip of the logic through movement, conversation, and visuals, it's going to make that even easier as we go. Now, we've got the example matching statements at the bottom. For example, if the teacher claps, pupils jump, else stay still. This might be something that's actually already incorporated into your day-to-day lessons, but to give it the if then else logic and talking about how this is we think, this is how the computers think, it's going to make that transition over to the digital a lot easier. For example, there, if teacher claps, pupils jump, else stay still. Then if the micro bit is tilted left, then show the left, else show the right. And it just makes it a lot easier to blend those logics together. So I'm going to pass over to Laura, who's just going to let us know from a primary perspective how you might actually use this within your own classroom as well as some potential other ideas.
Okay, so if obviously you're trying to teach this in a primary classroom, it's very similar to the type of activities you would also do in a secondary classroom. So lots of different ways to be able to deliver these unplugged logic type activities. And obviously you can adapt them to your classroom needs based on the resources you have available or what the children actually are able to do. So you may have actual cards printed out, if, then, and else with different statements on them. Pupils may have to move towards the cards around the room if you're quite active about it, or act out the activity when you show them the card in front of them. You may use mini whiteboards, especially if you're starting to get the children to write some code and starting to make their own code. If you have the opportunity to have some sort of digital technology, iPads, tablets, pupils could use different symbols, and they could also use things like color-based sorting tasks. Or probably the one that we use most commonly is acting it out, especially with our younger pupils. So for example, when I clap, you all clap 3 times back. Yeah, when I stand still, everyone eyes on me. Yeah, things like that. But probably acting out, I would say, in the primary school, it helps the children to be a bit more engaged and I think to understand the kind of the concept of the logic that you're trying to get across them. So again, these methods work across a variety of abilities and levels, making logic statements accessible to all the pupils before then having to move on to actually using a device.
Lovely, thanks so much, Laura. I think that is critical. I think as we were talking about this, seeing the primary and secondary transition, I think Laura's talking about how core the actual acting out piece is in the classroom. If we can incorporate a way to take that same behaviour, which is great, and just incorporate into a little bit of computational thinking. It's going to blend those worlds a lot easier and help kind of instill that confidence in pupils early on. So there's been a little bit of talk in there, which has been really good to see. Now, it'd be fantastic if at this stage, from a purely kind of unplugged perspective, what you've seen so far, if you had any comments or feedback on what you've just heard, possibly anything that you'd like to be clarified, or if there's other ideas as well, that's always great to hear. We're a mixture of different professions in this group today, so it'd be lovely to hear if you think you've got another idea if that could go, or something that you've tried in the past, and something you'd like to try, and you've not got the confidence to give it a go without a little bit of feedback as well. Anything you fancy, just an open dialogue on what you've heard so far, or what you potentially like to hear going forward as well. These sticky notes will be there throughout the entire session, so I'll pop back to them. So if you have something that's burning on your mind, even not relevant for this exact moment, just fire it down. It's always going to help us for later on as well for a little bit of feedback. Lovely, it's got Ruth there, loving the idea, get the kids up and moving around. Yeah, I think that's key, especially when we have this idea of, you know, it's computing, we're sitting at the computers. We want to break that away as much as we can, as we can be active and move around without being stuck at a desk, 100%. Yep, so I like the idea of using cards, simple game. Yeah, definitely gamify it. It's a lovely idea. It's definitely going to bring that idea of a little bit of competition to the classroom, which is never a bad thing there. Yep, perfect. So lovely examples of primary. Many things we're doing already, just a matter of big links here. That's if we could get across one thing from this session, it's that post-it note there. We're not here asking them to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there is some fantastic work going on in primary schools all over the country. We just want to make sure that we can actually give it the credit it deserves and link it to the right level of thinking. We're already doing that with English, maths, and science. Just about, can we bring this out to computing as well, or that to increase that sort of STEM incorporation there. So great, that's much less complicated than I first thought. My P12 could do this 100%. I mean, you can get the idea as early as you can. That'd be fantastic. You've ordered school lunch to this. You've got a pat lunch, something else. That's it. I mean, that's grand. I'm glad that that seems to have had the impact that we were really aiming for there, because that was it. We weren't here to, you know, teach everyone how to do these statements. It's something that we're doing. But I think if we can incorporate that into the computing world, that's exactly what we want to be. Reports video will help pupils understand the concept before coding. Definitely. It takes stigma away. It allows them just to really sort of build that confidence up before they go. Perfect. Good with spheros, moving around. Yeah, 100%. If you've got spheros, definitely get them out and use them. It'd be a great way to use it. Use it. Lovely stuff. So it looks like we've had a good couple of comments on there. Like I say, we can come back to these, so feel free if there is anything that sticks in your mind later on, you just jump back, like Connor said. You can sort of jump in and out of the presentation. You can just always press the return to me comment, and that'll bring you straight back. So I can see some love hearts starting to appear there. So I'm